Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and we are doing our Star Trek Convention video series. We are joined today by Kayleigha Zawacki of Science Division. There she is.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
So first things first,
Welcome.
You're an active member of the Star Trek community. And before we even get into conventions, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the Star Trek community with Science Division?
Yes. So Science Division came out of a childhood dream that I had watching Star Trek on VHS tape with my dad. The first episode he ever showed my sister and myself was The Trouble with Tribbles, because he figured, how do I get two little girls into Star Trek? I'm going to show them the episode with the fluffy creatures. And I always wanted a real pet Tribble that, would act like the Tribbles on the show. And I figured somebody would make one. At the time, you couldn't just Google stuff, but eventually you could, and I just kept figuring somebody would do that, and nobody really did. So my husband and I decided to try to make one. I converted him into a Trekkie when we started dating. Yeah, and he had no idea what he was in for, because I actually learned how to code with Arduino controllers, microcontrollers, to build the first Tribble, and it was my dad's idea to make them app enabled because he wanted to be able to push a button and make it scream at people. And people wanted them, so we approached CBS, and I still don't know how we did it, but we got the license. Wow. And now Science Division makes the first app enabled Tribble. And you can push a button and make it scream from your phone, and you set it in different modes, have it guard your stuff. So we just have a lot of fun with these guys.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah. That's really ridiculous.
Yeah,
it just has a little.
We just reviewed the Trials and Tribulations just very recently.
That. Yeah, I was really bummed I missed it, but we had an appointment to play Catan with my dad. So they live on the West Coast, my parents, and we live on the East Coast. And so we used to, every time we visited, we'd play Star Trek Catan. And then we couldn't visit because of COVID. So we figured out, we each have a board. So we set up a webcam so my dad can see what our board looks like. And we just played over Skype. So we have standing Star Trek Catan appointments where we get together and we get to hang out.
Oh,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And your husband recently made something for you. I don't know how recently, but you were showing that to us earlier.
Yes, my batleth, the Sword of Kayleigha, modeled after the Sword of Kahless. We're lighting designers, so he used the drafting software that we use to scale it to if Klingons were short, like me.
Wow, that thing looks legit.
Yeah, he did a really nice job on it. I've got a couple of mech lists around here somewhere too, so it's kind of
just kicking around.
Just a whole set, yeah.
All right, so that's all really well and good and awesome, but very importantly, what's your favorite Star Trek series?
Okay, so this is hard. So I have to do the thing I think a lot of people do. So I have my favorite or my first. So TOS, I grew up on TOS, and it will always have a near and dear place in my heart. And I actually didn't experience any of the others until I decided to get Jay, my husband, into Star Trek. Because we watched all of TOS, and he was like, there's more, isn't there? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. We should try it. And we actually watched through all of it together as a couple, which was really cool. Deep Space Nine is my favorite. Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek, in my opinion. I think that Deep Space Nine tackled some of the most important storylines. I kind of mentioned my husband and I are theater makers, so we're really interested in storytelling and in talking about things that are important stories to tell, and Deep Space Nine, I think, has done that in a way that the other Treks haven't quite touched yet.
It's too late for some of them.
Yes, but they are trying. They are trying with some of the newer Treks are crossing some boundaries, and that's great too.
Yeah. Sorry, I think you were starting to say something, Sirach.
No, I mean, it's great to hear that. I mean, I've heard it now before, and before we watched this series, I just thought that people say that just because I'm around. So I figure if Marina Sirtis was around, they'd say the Next Generation, and if Scott Bakula were around, they'd say something else. So I figure that it changes, by who you're around. But now having watching it and not completely finished, but while watching it, I'm getting such an appreciation for what you're talking about, Kayleigha, which is like this stuff is really touching on so many core issues that are relevant in all of our lives. That it helps us gain perspective and it helps us, kind of cumulatively get through it all and work these moral issues out on our own.
Mhm. Now, Kayleigha, also Science Division did something, I believe, last year in which people could sell their wares online, which was really cool for small business. We did it with a virtual TrekCon, but I believe Science Division preceded us even. Can you tell us about that a bit?
Yeah, we hosted last June the Connected Community Con, and it came out of, I mean, obviously with our triples, we had just gotten them in, so like triples had been on pre-order, they arrived, and then it was like everything shut down, stay home, and we were so bummed because one of the things that, I mean, we wanted to sell our triples, but the other thing was like we had just been to Star Trek Las Vegas for the first time ever as vendors, and
In
that was the first
2019?
in 2019.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'd been to a couple other cons, but that was the first con for me where it was like, I have achieved my goal of, being part of the Star Trek community. It was kind of this like moment for me where I could like acknowledge that I'm a Star Trek fan. It was always something that I loved, but it wasn't something that I really acknowledged publicly because I didn't have a lot of other people around me that were into it. And so going and being a part of that community, it was just like kind of life-changing thing. And then to not have that coming up, we were just like, what do we do now? And there wasn't a lot of stuff out there for vendors and community to get together yet. So we just went, everyone's on Zoom. Maybe we just ask people if they want to host a Zoom meeting. And so we essentially put together a virtual vendors room where people could have a Zoom table. And podcasters hosted conversations about their podcasts, and sci-fi vendors sold their sci-fi wares, and we just had a really great time talking to folks. Everybody could kind of get together and talk to each other. And then we did one in November that was the Vendors Hall, HAUL, and that was
Nice.
Star Trek licensees. So we did a similar thing, but did a lot of panels and then had Zoom rooms. So people could come and look at some of the Star Trek licensee wares as well.
Brilliant.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun.
What was the how long did it take you to get from kind of like start to actual holding the triple in your hand? What was that length of time and process like?
Yeah, actually building the triple was, I think, the quickest part of bringing the triples in, because when I get in onto a project, I'm just like, I am on that project. So I had a friend who kind of knew some stuff about electronics. He kind of talked to me about what it was I wanted to do and went, get these things and good luck. And so essentially I would be like, okay, I need to get this thing working. And Arduino is great because it's open source. So I'd like watch a tutorial for that piece and then get the next piece working and then try to figure out how to make them talk to each other. So I built the first one in my living room after work at night in probably a month and a half, and just kind of like hand sewed the first body and like put it all together. So the first one was like in a little Pelican case. So Jay learned how to solder electronics so that it could all go from, it was like a whole card table, all of the wires and breadboards and everything. And he got the whole thing down into this little Pelican case. And that was going to be it until people were kind of like, we want one, and then it was probably a year and a half, 2 years after that, we started reaching out to companies who already had licenses and saying, hey, do you want to do this? And one company did, and then they didn't, but they had gotten us in touch with CBS already. And the licensing director at the time was like, well, if they don't want to do it, do you want to do it as Jay and Kayleigha? And it was just kind of like, well, I don't think anyone can say no to that. When the licensing director for Star Trek at CBS says, hey, do you want to do the thing? You figure out how to do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, reminds me of Ghostbusters. It's like, when the CBS licensing director asks you if you want to do something, you say yes.
Say yes. Actually, all my Ghostbusters stuff is back here too.
Very nice.
I love Ghostbusters as well.
Excellent. Very quotable movie.
It is.
All right. So you went to Star Trek in Las Vegas for the first time ever in 2019. Can you tell us the most surprising moment or thing or realization? What surprised you? What did you not expect?
I think it was like my dad really put it into words the best. So my parents flew to Las Vegas to help us run the Tribble booth when we were taking the pre-orders. And my dad walks into the convention and he just goes, "Oh my God, it's like Starfleet is real." Because everybody was in uniform, people were being nice to each other, and it was just like you were immediately part of the community. You were immediately accepted into the community. So, I mean, Jay and I had been to a couple of conventions before, but we didn't know you could just like walk up and talk to people and they would be your friend, So it had just been kind of him and me walking around the convention, and then going as vendors, we had to talk to people. And then we realized, we really wanted to talk to people. We just didn't know that was there in that kind of way. And, at this point, it's way more the community that is exciting than it is, selling things to the community. Although we'll be happy to send tribbles to anybody who wants them. But that's been the thing I think that has been, the greatest gift out of all of this is just getting to meet so many amazing people. And then you realize like, oh, that person's on the internet and we're friends now. And it's just really cool how quickly, your sphere grows when you have this connection immediately with somebody just because they like Star Trek too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was it about the tribbles that were already in existence that made you feel like it needed an upgrade and it wasn't realistic enough for you?
Sure. I didn't want to have to clap or throw it against something. I wanted it to really feel like it was alive and real. Ours will sit here and trill whether you're touching them or not, which was something that I wanted. Yes. Yeah, so if I pick it up, it'll trill and vibrate and all of that stuff in response to me picking it up. But if I leave it sitting around, then there's an algorithm in there where it will trill on its own. And if it sits for longer, it trills less frequently. And if it sits for an hour, it goes to sleep. And I also noticed like I didn't want it to only make happy sounds or only make angry sounds. So there's a mode in there where every time you move it, it decides if you're a Klingon or not. So it will either trill or it will scream randomly. And we also put a watchdog mode in, so you can like set it down on top of your stuff, and if somebody moves it, it'll scream. So there were just things about like I wanted it to feel. That first mode where it trills on its own and it vibrates and all of that stuff, we wanted it to feel like it was a real pet. Mm-hmm. And it really, I think it was just the fact that I wanted one so badly as a kid that really drove me. It was like, hey, I've always wanted this. Let's just see if we can make it. And then we just kept, okay, well, what if it can do this? And what if it can do that? And it just kind of like, well, I'm already in under the hood working with the code. Let's see if we can add that thing to it. And so it just kind of grew into this thing.
Wow, the watchdog mode, that's so smart.
Yeah, right?
A lot of siblings really like it. They like to guard their stuff in their rooms.
Watch Tribble.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep an eye out for me.
You are, let's hope, going to the convention in Las Vegas this year. But let us know.
Can't go this year.
Where on the East Coast are you? Is it related to distance?
It's not related to distance. I am doing my MFA thesis project, and I have 5 weeks to load it into the theater space, and those 5 weeks are in August. And part of it is if I were to go and get sick when I came back, I would miss my thesis, which I've been working on for 2.5 years. So at this point, I kind of need to make sure I get that done. So we're really bummed. We're going to try to be at the Sci-Fi Summit in New Jersey and then at Trek Conderoga. And so those are both in September.
Okay. I mean, But
the Trek geeks are going to have a Tribble, I think, at their booth. for people to check out if they want to go see one.
Zawacki, this is an okay reason to miss the convention, right? I think we're okay with it.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like sitting back trying to figure out. I thought you said you do coding, but now you're telling me you're getting your MFA. I'm like, this girl's pretty much talented in a whole bunch
Yeah.
of things. I don't know what to say. I'm take my hats off to you, or my hat off to you. Tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I do not claim to be a coder. I literally just learned enough to get myself in trouble to make the thesis. So, but
Okay.
I'm actually a lighting designer for theater. While I was originally studying it, I learned how to do welding and different things, and actually found that I love sculpture. So I'm actually really interested in being a fine artist as well. And so I kind of fell into this love of installation and site-specific art. So for my lighting design MFA project, I'm doing a designed experience about sustainability and wildlife conservation. So specifically through the lens of protecting tigers, because as I loved tribbles as a little kid, I also loved tigers as a little kid, and I've been really interested in wildlife and tiger conservation for a long time. So it is made almost entirely out of sustainably sourced materials. So it's a 20-foot diameter enclosure made out of recycled pallets and a mosaic mirror floor out of recycled mirror, where you walk in and have this experience with it's an animated projected tiger. So the pallets are a projection surface, and the tiger comes out and like runs around with you, and you go swimming and underwater together and have all of these like really fun experiences with this tiger that I animated using a rotoscoping technique. So I've like hand drawn every frame, and there's light and there's sound and there's projection. And then at the end of it, after you've had this really great fun experience with this, presence of this tiger, the environment around it kind of starts to disappear and deconstruct, and the lights go out and everything until just the tiger is left, and then the tiger is gone. So the idea is not necessarily to try to tell a specific narrative where moment to moment you're supposed to feel anything, but to give you an experience to feel what it's like to have a great and fun time with this wild animal, and then what does it feel like when that just disappears. So
it's very nice. Yeah, you're speaking to my heart with this animal stuff. We definitely do need to protect the animals and preserve our environment and their environments as well, which we kind of forget. That's really cool.
Where are you studying? You don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm at Boston University. So if anyone's in the Boston area over Labor Day weekend, you actually can come and see it.
Wow, cool.
Oh, this thing is going to be set up relatively soon.
Yes, yeah. Actually, I get the theater, which is unheard of. Actually, because of COVID, everything in the theater over the summer got canceled. So it's actually a really big opportunity for me to have so much time to get in and load this thing in. I've been very fortunate to be really, really supported by the School of Theater and the faculty there, and been given a lot of leeway to make it be bigger than it probably should.
Wow.
So yeah, I start loading it in August, and then I present it over Labor Day weekend. And I'm hoping to also try experiment with 3D recording it. So maybe folks who can't be there from an accessibility point can watch it through a VR headset. Because I'm also interested in like, how do we make art more available and accessible to folks?
Well, that's really cool. We got to run in just a second here, Kayleigha, but there are people watching that are going to say, where is she on social media? Where's Science Division? So I can go and message her and give her my vote of confidence and cheer her on, and also maybe buy a couple tribbles.
Sure, yeah. We are at Science Div, D-I-V, on Twitter and Facebook, and Science_Division on Instagram. And then our website is sciencediv.com as well.
Awesome. Great.
That's excellent work you're doing. Definitely wish you the best on everything. I can see that you have the eye. Even the backdrop behind you, the way you lit it and the colors is kind of like it looks like artwork in itself. So I know that you've got the skills. I'm excited. Are you going to be able to post any of that stuff? Are we going to be able to see this exhibit posted somewhere, or for those people that can experience it?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page, Kayleigha Design. which I haven't posted to in a really long time, but I am setting a goal for myself to post weekly updates as I'm building the project. We've turned the garage into a workshop, and we're building the whole thing at our house and then transporting it to the theaters. So I am going to try to be posting updates on the project there.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to it, and we look forward to next year.
You've got a good reason to miss Vegas. You've got a legitimate reason. So.
We'll see her in Vegas next year.
Yes, you will. I'm devastated to not be going. It's a bummer.
All right. Well, Kayleigha Zawacki, thank you so very much for joining us. We won't see you in August, but maybe we'll see you in September or in April in Chicago, or possibly just next August in Las Vegas. And everybody at home, be sure to check out all of the goodies on Science Division and follow along and cheer her on and buy a whole bunch of tribbles. And I think that's it for us.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
And make sure you guys support out there, because she's doing it big, and you know, it's not easy to start a business and to be in school and to do all the things that you're doing at the age you're doing it. It means you're showing a lot of commitment, discipline, and hard work. And I think, you know, we should be out supporting people that are doing good things like you.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Great. All right, everybody at home, Sirach gave you your marching orders. Go support.
Yeah, Science Division, guys. Check it out.
And we'll see you soon, everybody. Thank you very much. And always remember the 7th rule.